Hello, and welcome to Gentle and Clear English. Here, you will have great experiences with real stories in a clear, slow, and educational way about everyday life in America and around the world. So, enjoy, relax, and learn. Abraham Lincoln's story is one of the most inspiring tales in American history. It shows how a poor boy from a small cabin could become the President of the United States and lead the nation through its greatest crisis, early life and family. Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809, in a log cabin in Hardin County, Kentucky. His parents, Thomas and Nancy Lincoln, were farmers. Life on the frontier was difficult. The Lincolns had to clear forests, plant crops, and survive with limited resources. The family moved several times. First from Kentucky to Indiana, then later to Illinois. These moves were common for families looking for better land and opportunities. The land in Kentucky was becoming crowded, and there were conflicts with Native Americans. Indiana offered new possibilities, but it was still a wild and hard place to live. Abraham's mother, Nancy Hanks Lincoln, taught him to read and write before she died when he was just 9 years old. Her death was a big sadness for Abraham. Soon after, his father remarried Sarah Bush Johnston. Sarah was a supportive stepmother who encouraged Abraham's education and reading. She brought books and gave him confidence. This support helped Abraham develop a love for learning, education, and self-improvement. Lincoln's formal schooling was very limited, only about a year or so in total, but he was determined to learn. He borrowed books from neighbors and read whenever he could. His favorite subjects were the Bible, Aesop's fables, and classic literature. He also learned by doing. For example, as a young man, he worked as a rail splitter, chopping wood to make fences. This was hard, physical work, but it helped build his strength and character. Lincoln also worked as a store clerk, postmaster, and surveyor. What is amazing about Lincoln is how he taught himself law. He did not go to law school because at the time, many lawyers learned by reading law books and apprenticing with other lawyers. Lincoln read law books late into the night, often by candlelight, and practiced writing legal documents. Personal life and marriage. Lincoln's personal life had its own challenges. He was tall, about 6 feet 4 inches, and awkward in his youth. People noticed his height and his quiet personality. In 1842, Abraham Lincoln married Mary Todd, a woman from a wealthy Kentucky family. Mary was educated and lively, very different from Lincoln's humble background. Their marriage had ups and downs. They loved each other, but their personalities clashed sometimes. Mary was known to be strong-willed and emotional. Together, they had 4 sons. Sadly, only one of their children, Robert, lived to adulthood. The other 3 died young, which caused great pain to Lincoln and Mary. Political career begins. Lincoln's first entry into politics was at the Illinois state legislature, where he served 4 terms. He was a member of the Whig Party, which supported internal improvements, such as building roads and canals, and policies to encourage economic growth. He earned a reputation as an honest and clear speaker. People trusted him because he was straightforward and fair. This honesty earned him the nickname Honest Abe. In 1846, Lincoln was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. During his time in Congress, he opposed the Mexican-American War because he believed it was unjust and an attempt to expand slavery. However, His views were not popular with everyone, and he did not win re-election. The fight against slavery. The issue of slavery was dividing America in the 1850s. The country was expanding westward, and new states were being added. The big question was whether these new states would allow slavery or not. Lincoln was against the expansion of slavery. He believed it was morally wrong and harmful to the nation. He did not initially call for immediate abolition everywhere, but focused on stopping slavery spread. In 1854, the Kansas-Nebraska Act created more conflict. It allowed settlers in these territories to decide by vote if they wanted slavery. This led to violent fights between pro-slavery and anti-slavery groups, known as Bleeding Kansas. Lincoln spoke out strongly against this act. He helped form the Republican Party, which was dedicated to stopping slavery's expansion. This party attracted many people who opposed slavery, including former Whigs and anti-slavery Democrats. The Lincoln-Douglas debates. In 1858, Lincoln ran for the U.S. Senate against Stephen Douglas, a powerful politician who supported popular sovereignty. This idea meant that each state could decide for itself about slavery by voting. The debates between Lincoln and Douglas were famous for their clear and passionate arguments. Lincoln argued that slavery was morally wrong and that America could not remain half slave and half free. Although Lincoln lost the Senate race, the debates made him famous nationwide. People admired his clear thinking and strong moral position. The road to the presidency. In 1860, Lincoln became the Republican candidate for president. The country was deeply divided, with tensions between North and South growing. Lincoln's election caused fear in the Southern states. Many white Southerners depended on slavery for their economy and way of life. They worried that Lincoln would try to end slavery completely. Before Lincoln even took office, 7 Southern states seceded from the Union, forming the Confederate States of America. They believed they had the right to leave the Union to protect their interests. Lincoln believed the Union was permanent and secession illegal. His goal was to save the United States, not to start a war. But war was coming. The Civil War begins. In April 1861, Confederate forces attacked Fort Sumter in South Carolina, starting the Civil War. This war would last 4 years and become the bloodiest conflict in American history. Lincoln had to lead the country through this crisis. He faced many challenges: building an army, managing resources, and keeping public support. He also had to deal with critics. Some wanted him to be tougher. Others thought he should focus on peace. Lincoln carefully balanced these pressures, working to preserve the Union. The Emancipation Proclamation. One of Lincoln's most important decisions was issuing the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1, 1863. This executive order declared freedom for slaves in the Confederate States. Though it did not free all slaves, especially those in border states loyal to the Union, it changed the war's meaning. Now the fight was also about ending slavery, not just preserving the Union. This proclamation allowed African Americans to join the Union Army and Navy. Thousands of former slaves fought bravely for their freedom. The Gettysburg Address. In November 1863, Lincoln visited the battlefield of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, where a major and deadly battle had taken place. He gave a short but powerful speech called the Gettysburg Address. In just a few minutes, Lincoln reminded the nation of its founding principles: liberty, equality, and democracy. He said the country was conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. These words inspired many Americans and continue to be remembered. Today, re-election and the end of the war. In 1864, Lincoln was re-elected president. His leadership during the war was widely respected. The Union Army gradually gained the upper hand. In April 1865, Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered at Appomattox Courthouse, effectively ending the war. Lincoln's assassination. Tragically, just days after the war ended, Lincoln was shot by John Wilkes Booth, a Confederate sympathizer, at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. Lincoln died the next day, April 15, 1865. The nation mourned the loss of a leader who had saved the country and helped end slavery. Legacy. Abraham Lincoln's legacy is enormous. He is remembered as a symbol of freedom, equality, and unity. He showed how determination, honesty, and courage can change the world. His life story teaches us that even from humble beginnings, great leaders can rise.